I don't even know where to begin with this one, honestly. I had never heard of this game until I got some requests for it, and based on those requests, I thought it couldn't have been that bad. One-on-one fighting games released before Street Fighter 2 have an abysmal track record, as evidenced by Street Fighter 1, Pit Fighter, and Violence Fight, which is a real thing, yes. Urban Champion is even older than those games, and it was made for the NES. It was released in Japan in 1984, but in North America in 1986, meaning that it could have been a launch title, but they decided to hold off on it for a year. I mean, the launch lineup already had a fighting game that was 100 times better than this game, so I don't blame them. By the time I learned all that, I had very low expectations. But it was made by Nintendo, so I said to myself, it could be good. But you know what? It managed to be even worse than I was expecting. To put it simply, Urban Champion is not a game. It's an endurance test. It is a trial to see how much of your time, energy, and life force it can take away before you give up or lose. But to be fair to it, there are elements of quality which I can point out. And no joke, the biggest positive I can think of is the title card. Most of the other black box games are just the title on a black background, so I can appreciate the extra effort. I mean, the white text on the blue background looks nice, there's that little window of the city. It's a little weird that the game options are pink, but whatever. In fact, all of this game is at least decent to look at. I mean, the buildings look like buildings, the lampposts look like lampposts, the city in the background looks like a real city. Honestly, I'd say this game has the best visuals of any black box game I've reviewed so far. If only I could say the same about the gameplay. So what do you do in this game? All you have to do is punch your opponent over and over again until they're pushed back all the way to the curb. One last punch will make them fall and roll backwards like a drunk Sonic the Hedgehog. Admittedly, that is kind of funny the first time you see it. This game is pretty easy, so you're going to see that a whole lot, and it gets a lot less funnier the second and third times. Each fight is decided on a 3 out of 5 basis, which if you ask me is just a little too long, especially considering that each round can take forever. Once you or your opponent has lost twice, a manhole cover will appear on that side. You then have to knock them down the manhole. I mean, that kinda seems like textbook murder to me, but I'm not a lawyer, so whatever. I mean, the cops only come and arrest you whenever you take too long, so I don't think they're worried about it. For all I know, I might have been sending that guy to get the Ninja Turtles autograph for me. Instead of a health bar, you have a stamina bar, which goes down every time that you punch or get punched. It's a system that kinda reminds me of the hearts from Punch-Out. I like it. As far as the actual design and structure of Urban Champion goes, it's pretty competent. It's very, very, very simple, but complexity isn't really a measure of quality. I mean, if I were ranking these games purely based off of how complex they are, Mega Man 1 would be about 10 spots higher. But it's not, because it manages to be less fun than a lot of the simpler games above it. Urban Champion is not a bad game because it's a simple game. It's a bad game that just so happens to be simple. There are 4 kinds of punches you can do. You have a light punch and a heavy punch, and you can do high-or-low versions of either of them. There's also a guy who'll drop flower pots from his window onto you. Now, I would say this guy's a jerk, but if there were 2 guys fighting outside my building for no reason, I'd probably do the same thing. Speaking of the windows, there's a girl up there who'll throw confetti from them to the winner. Anyway, throwing a punch takes 1 stamina, getting hit by the light one takes 4, and being hit by the heavy one takes 10. The flower pot takes 5, but it also stuns you and leaves you vulnerable. Hitting up or down on the D-pad makes you block high or low. You also punch at the same level you're blocking. I guess it's kind of like switching your stance. Now this seems really straightforward, but in practice there's just something off about it. It might just be me, but I felt like switching stances was really unreliable and only worked sometimes. And in a game where there are only like 5 different moves you can do and one of them just doesn't work most of the time, that's a really big problem. Imagine playing Punch-Out and blocking and dodging only works like half the time. It's pretty much the same experience as this. But my number one biggest complaint with this entire game has to be how repetitive it is. There's only one opponent, which is understandable considering this is the first fighting game Nintendo ever made. But seriously, you just fight the same guy over and over and over again. The only difference is that he gets slightly harder with each passing level. And when I say slightly, I mean slightly. I didn't notice any differences until like the 4th or 5th level. On my first ever attempt, which is the one I recorded, I managed to get to round 16 before I lost. That attempt took around 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. And for most of that, I didn't have to use any strategy at all. You can just mash buttons and win most of the time. I mean, sure, it gets harder, and you could probably get more enjoyment out of it as it keeps going. But to do that, you'll have to trudge through the beginning every single time. Once you get knocked down the manhole, that's game over. No continues. Although that's pretty normal for the time, so I'm not going to complain about that. What I am complaining about is that this game has about 3 minutes of content. In almost no time at all, I had already experienced everything this game had to offer. You know, for a while I actually considered putting this game at the very bottom of my ranking. But then I thought about it, and I decided, no, Donkey Kong Jr. math is worse. Urban Champion is at least unique, and has a purpose, and isn't a complete joke. But then again, it is so primitive and bare bones that I can't put it any higher than second to last. But you know what? I'll give it credit for at least being a pioneer in the 2D fighting game genre. Without all the failures, we might have never gotten a good one. I guess next I'll be doing Wrecking Crew. As always, if you have any requests or feedback of any kind, feel free to comment. I read all my comments. I absolutely love getting requests, so don't stop giving them to me. Anyway, 3 out of 10. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye!